What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Guy. So by now everyone's probably heard that Final Fantasy VII is getting a remake. A lot of people have been waiting for it for a long time and are pretty excited about it. Some people even think it could be a return to form for old Square Enix. I am not one of those people. I won't bore you with my nitpicks on things like character design. Didn't Cloud used to wear purple? I always liked that purple. Yeah, sure did. Oh, I see we're going with the Advent Children hair here, huh? Okay. We loved it the first time! Why does Smash have an infinitely better Cloud model than Square Enix? Where am I? Anyway, a new trailer dropped the other day showing gameplay footage which looked fine. But there's been a few other pieces of news that just demanded I talk about them. Take a look at this Square Enix article. You see that? It's not going to be one game. The remake is going to be in multiple parts. Multiple parts that each provide their own unique experience. You know what I wanted? The Final Fantasy VII experience! In an interview with director Nomura and producer Kitase, looks like in an attempt to keep things relevant, they're going to adjust the storyline. Always want to revive Aeris? Who cares if it flies in the face of the entire point of the game? You're gonna get your wish, my friend, for only $19.99. The dream is dead, folks. Anyone holding on to hope previously must have lost it by now. How the fuck is this gonna work with multiple parts? Is my save file gonna transfer over between games like Mass Effect? Or are we all just gonna start from the same point each time, wiping any trace of customization away completely? Will there even be customization anymore? Or will we just have controlled, scripted segments given a few set characters to choose from, like a theme park ride? But boy, those teacups can be a hoot. Woo! The original still exists, folks, and it's available on every platform, including your goddamn phone. So is it not patently obvious why they're doing this? I'm getting flashes of the EVA rebuild here, but even that isn't nearly this bad. Square Enix has zero interest in updating the game to reach new audiences, the rationalization people like to throw out to defend remakes. This is greed, plain and simple. Why make one product, a movie, a game, whatever, that you can only sell one time? Why not chop it up into pieces, say that they're each their own unique experience, and charge for it multiple times? And by making everybody wait 6, 8, 10 years for the full package, we can drive up interest in the company and merchandise sales all along. It's perfect! If you're gonna remake Final Fantasy VII, which I don't advocate, how about just remaking the game? Not games, game. I don't remember the part in Final Fantasy VII where I chased Aeris to the City of the Ancients, stood there powerless as Sephiroth murdered her before my eyes, and then had to wait a year before the game let me continue hunting down the motherfucker that killed her. And I don't remember buying the Aeris Lives DLC that replaces the Cloud and Tifa airship scene with a steamy threesome. Do you see why this could be annoying, Square Enix? Putting aside the arguments I'm seeing that are some of the stupidest I've seen in my entire life, I swear to God, I better be getting motherfucking baited. There is just no hope for this game. And that's all I have to say about it. Fuck it, let's talk about the rest too. I hate game remakes more than anything in the world. I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy VII here, but these points apply to any game getting remade. Now, I grew up with Final Fantasy VII. I was 7 or 8 in 1998 when I first got the game, and that's probably true for most of you watching. I was one of the kids whose formative years was shaped by that game, and it's still one of my favorites ever. Played it just last year, and it was still great. My point being that I've spent a lot of time playing this game, and I feel like I've got it pretty well understood and lodged in my brain. So for people like that, and who have a decent backseat understanding of modern games development, when we see these trailers, it's like we can see the future. All these differences in design, gameplay, combat, mood, audio, and even the fucking story, they all just scream, your memories are wrong, we're improving them. Playing this remake is going to be like getting someone else's memories forcibly inserted into your brain. It's going to be agonizing. Now, to someone who's never played or just doesn't care, I'm sure they'll enjoy it just fine. But is that really who this game is being made for? People who don't even care about Cloud, Tifa, Yuffie, or Aeris? Oh, and by the way, her name's Aeris. This has been a long time coming, so let's take a moment and break this down, shall we? In Japanese, Aeris' name is written Earisu, or Earisu. See that character there? That's the Su kana. And when you pronounce this character in Japanese, there's a tendency to drop the U sound at the end, in this case giving Aeris. So anyone claiming that Eris is a mistranslation is just fucking wrong. But let's ignore that for now, and let me ask you a question. Why do you call Tina Terra, huh? You know her real name is Tina, right? That's always been her Japanese name. Why are you calling her something different? And why do you call Exodus Exdeath? You do know that was an actual mistranslation from the original Final Fantasy V script, right? Why don't you insist on fixing that one too? Look, all that matters here is that she was called Eris first, and it worked perfectly fine. Get the fuck out of here with your Aerith bullshit. Back on point, here's the deal, guys. A released game is a time capsule with all its component parts inside. It's like they say, art is never finished, it's just abandoned. But it's abandoned and then shown, and that's the version that connects with people. Look at Final Fantasy VII. Pre-rendered backgrounds, the LEGO character models, the temperamental field controls, the lack of voice acting, the goofy translation, Tifa's ridiculously huge CGI tits. It's all a product of that time period, that environment, and the people who made it. And that's what gives the game its personality. Here's an example. A friend of mine, Hypocrite, pointed out in one of his videos that the faces on the field models of the characters are basically just eyes that blink, and frankly, I don't even know if they do that. But no mouth, no nose, no nothing. They just didn't have the resources to make more complex models, I guess. So what did they do? Animate the fuck out of those models! Remember the ridiculous gestures everyone made all the time that often don't even make sense? Those are clearly the product of trying to create expressiveness in the characters despite technical limitations. To me, that's a core aspect of Final Fantasy VII. Now tell me, how exactly is the remake going to recreate this feeling? Don't know, do ya? The remake is going to suffer from the same problems so many AAA games do these days. And yes, I know it for a fact, you can see it in the gameplay demo. It's just too real. Too fucking real. And Kitase himself has said as much about the company. This bullshit quest for photorealism every big company is undertaking these days has them obsessed with making pretty, lifelike models. And there's nothing wrong with that, but when you're a game company and it starts to impact the quality of the games, that's when you've got a fucking problem. It's like they've forgotten you can get away with less than picture-perfect character designs. Remember sprites, guys? Those worked pretty well for you back in the day. When you've got a sprite or a model like we had in the original Final Fantasy VII, it's an abstract. You know that the real Cloud wouldn't just stand there and wait his turn to attack in a real fight. It's all a metaphor for actual combat. Like in all games, there's a level of abstraction here that lets our minds fill in the blanks. But when you have models that look this realistic, you can't get away with anywhere near as much of that shit. Everything has to be perfectly planned out. Everything has to be realistic, or it will break the more complex illusion they're creating. This means that all this extra shit, voice acting, real-time battle systems, infinitely more animations for every fucking action under the sun, all that shit ramps up the cost of development. Your game ends up costing $50 million to make, and therefore, you have to make that much back. And how do you do that? By making the best game possible at bringing the artistic vision of the staff to life? Fuck no, you disabled child. You appeal to the lowest common denominator. You're not out to make the best product, you're out to ship the most units. Did you enjoy discovering Yuffie and Vincent on your own and working out how to recruit them yourself while others played through the game never even knowing about them? Well, say goodbye to that shit. You can bet your bottom fucking dollar that they are mandatory characters in the new one. You think they'll go through all the trouble of making all these sexy models and animation and have one single solitary player not see them? Not for the kind of money it costs them, friend. You will appreciate their work! Not to mention the complexity that comes with a multiple release format and things like this. There's no way they're gonna work in having or not having found those characters. It's much easier to just make them mandatory. Ever wonder why every AAA game seems the same these days? All this is why. Maybe indie games will save us from this hell. Oh, who am I kidding? Indie games are fucked! You know what's gonna be great? Remember how in the original ending, after Meteor drops, all we see is Red 13 and his kids looking down on the overgrown ruins of Midgar 500 years later, leaving us to wonder the very real question about whether or not Holy wiped out humanity. Bet you don't remember much of that these days, do ya? There was a whole question in the game about how if using Holy was even a good idea to begin with. Holy, you see, was a last resort option to cleanse the planet from any and all sources of danger, and it might have just decided that humans were as much of a scourge to it as Meteor was. And given the themes of environmentalism in the game, it's a pretty important fucking question. It made you question the overall impact humanity has on the planet and wonder how these issues impact our lives and if we can ever really live in harmony with nature. It makes you think. So, how much better will it be when Red 13 jumps over that hill and we see Edge motherfucking City around Midgar with Cloud Pussyfucker Strife screaming down the highway on his transforming motorcycle doing flips and shit and wiping out motherfucking Geostigma, while Vincent Shit-Kisser Valentine flies around as Chaos Demon Jesus fighting Hojo's evil clone or whatever, while the ghosts of Zack, Angeal, Gact, and every other shoehorned, retcon character look down and whisper, "Fuck yeah. Just fucking kill me." Now, believe it or not, I don't think this is all bad. Now that this news of splitting it into episodes and changing the story has dropped, hopefully no one will take the game seriously anymore, and it can be treated like the abortion it is. The original will always be the original, and this will be that chopped up piece of trash we can slowly forget about, like the rest of this misguided compilation of Final Fantasy VII. The really disgusting thing to me about all this stuff is how people who had next to nothing to do with making the original are taking it upon themselves to update or improve the actual creator's vision. Sakaguchi is the one who came up with the idea of the life stream and the concept of life beyond death in the game because he was dealing with his mother's death at the time. We gonna get him to come in and consult on the game? I don't fucking think so. And even if the exact same staff was making the game, even then, they're all vastly different people from the ones who made the game 20 years ago. It just won't be the same. Like, if I told you I was writing a sequel to Catcher in the Rye and was continuing J.D. Salinger's work, would you buy it? What if I get the estate of Salinger to put their stamp of approval on my series of murder mysteries starring Holden Caulfield, the depressed private eye? Would you accept that as part of the Catcher in the Rye canon? Fuck no! Yeah, Kitase, who was the original director, is back, but now he's producer and leaving the directing to our golden boy Nomura. Let's not kid ourselves, folks. Nomura has never been a great game designer. The man is a fashion designer. It becomes more and more clear each year how he's had some lucky breaks to get him where he is, but is completely out of his depth doing any story more complex than Kingdom Hearts. Don't let that superficial shit confuse you. The game's as straightforward as they come. Now hey, don't get me wrong. I'm the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan in the world. But we all know it's nothing more than inter-series fan service mixed with bargain bin shonen tropes, the game. And the series has only been getting worse since Kingdom Hearts 2. And do you think he had anything to do with balancing the combat in that game to make it so good? I'm skeptical, fam. You know, we already had a guy in Final Fantasy who made pretty art by the name of Yoshitaka Amano. And guess what? He knew better than to try to fuck around with other people's games. Nomura is the textbook example of the misplaced priorities of Square Enix, putting style way over substance. Final Fantasy V, for example, had shitty hardware, fuck all memory to fit onto, and a 2-year development cycle. And it's roughly, I'm gonna say, 1,000,000 times better than Final Fantasy XIII, despite all the technological advancements. Essentially, this remake is going to be an exercise in punishment. The more you love the game as it was, the less you'll like this remake. That does, however, leave people who know nothing about the game to enjoy it as much as they please. But you have to wonder, is this game for those people? If so, why not just make a new game? Oh, that's right, name recognition. But you know, I bet they aren't going to enjoy waiting years to continue a story in between episodes either. By now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, at the end of the day, why not just ignore this whole thing? You don't have to play it. None of this erases the original, it will always be there waiting for you. Well, friends, that's not quite right. You see, I love Final Fantasy VII, and I want others to enjoy it because I think it is a fun and meaningful piece of art. A decade from now, or whenever they finish this remake thing, it will be considered the updated version. When people are scrolling through Steam, that's gonna pop up when they search Final Fantasy VII. All the love and hype that's been generated for the original over the years, people will think that at least something of that applies to this game as well, and so they'll play it because it has better graphics, frame rate, and resolution. This remake thing, and all remakes, are just a distraction that divert people from playing the games that actually matter to people. Are you unable to appreciate still pictures because we have movies now? Do we need to update them into motion so modern audiences can appreciate them? No? So why the fuck do we need to do it to games? They exist with all their flaws as a testament to the time in which they were produced and the people who made them then. And frankly, it's just fucking disrespectful to look down on old games and say, oh, that was fine for the times, but we've got a higher standard now. Fuck off with that shit. You know what's really sad? I used to be Squaresoft's biggest fan. They produced gem after gem after gem 15 years ago, but they have changed. Too much talent left, and the company got too fucking big. They can't churn out games the way they once did, taking the risks they used to. We all just kinda grew up too much, I guess. Too much responsibility now. Up until maybe a few months ago, I had hoped Square Enix would turn things around. Final Fantasy XII was a good game, even 13 had some things I liked, and 15 looks like it actually has potential. But when I look at 15, and I look at the company as a whole, I realize this is just not the company I once loved. They've transformed into something different, unrecognizable, and alien. They would never produce something like the first 9 Final Fantasies as they are now. They can churn out a decent game every once in a while, but there's just not enough left for me to care anymore. It's just telling about the state of the company and the Final Fantasy series that they're finally doing this. Just look at the sales charts and the way they're completely dropping off. The remake of Final Fantasy VII has been Square Enix's trump card that they've been saving for an emergency. The crowning jewel of reminding us how good they used to be. Well, frankly, I think I'd rather have it fail completely and the company go under so that it can't rape its past any more than it already has. Thanks for listening. This has been Guy. God help us all. And by the way, I bet they're gonna make Tifa's tits too small. Fuck you, Square Enix!